Good morning, everyone. This is Judy Alter, the Optimistic BA, and I am live today for my first BA Jam show with Ryan Folster, Paula Bell, and Barbara Korkenord. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I think I've covered the panel that's on my show now with all the different time zones we're in. But we're going to talk about some memories and some stories and hope to make you laugh and have a little bit of fun. And please, send in your comments. So to get started, before I let each of them say a little bit about themselves, one of my fondest memories was one year, Paula and Barbara and I were all at the Iowa conference. And it was right after Paula had introduced her BA martial arts stuff.
Oh, wow.
I remember I ran into Barbara and she said, "Where are you going?" And I told her what presentation I was going to. And she said, "Martial arts and BA, that can't be anything decent." I said, "Well, come along and you'll find out because I've seen it before." And afterwards, it was her talking to all the people as she went out. I can't believe how good this presentation was.
It was great.
I will forever chuckle at that memory.
It
Seems
was
like
great.
I missed out.
Exactly. That was just so funny. So
A lot of skeptics at the very beginning. A lot of skeptics, Ryan. I think I might have turned some of them. Some might still be skeptical, though.
yeah.
No. When you broke a board for us, I think that did it, eh?
Probably.
Yeah, and I never could break the dang board. So. Well, Ryan, do you just want to take just a minute and tell them who you are?
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe in big introductions. If you guys want to find out about me, you know where to find out about me. But at heart, a business analyst. I've been doing it for a few years. I mainly focus on financial services and heavily in the compliance space. A very, very proud IIBA member. I'm very, very proud part of the IIBA community. And I guess last thing, I love going to all the conferences around the world and meeting all the BAs and the guys doing this job that we all love.
All right. There's not enough time to talk about everything Paula Bell does, but
No, there's not. But it's just real brief. Real brief. Paula Bell, the BA martial artist, is what I'm known for in the BA space. Have over 20 plus years in the project management space. I mean, I've done pretty much almost every role in project management, from developer, PM, BA, all of it. Have a passion for business analysis, and always have and continue to have. And it's always interesting to watch how it evolves and all the different twists and turns it takes. So I'm like Ryan, if you want to know more, follow me. I'm on probably every social media out there. You can find me under Paula Bell and BA Martial Artist.
okay. Thanks, Paula. Barbara?
Hey, everybody. Barbara Korkenord. I've been involved with IIBA since the beginning of IIBA. Even before the IIBA became a thing, I had developed with my company a BA certification program because we had a lot of customers asking, how do I know if I've got a good BA? And we developed a certification program, which, was pretty good, but we knew it shouldn't be done by a training company. It should be done by an association. So we were so happy to hear that some people in Toronto wanted to start the association. And Judy, I was thinking of your funny story. One of my funny stories is, and I don't know, Paula, if you were there, but the first ever that I'm aware of, the first ever BA conference was in Boston. And it was, we were so new still, and we were so young. And so it wasn't really well attended, but all the training companies were so excited that we had a conference that we all had booths there. So we went to presentations, and it was basically like all the people from the other booths were in each other's presentation. So it was Ellen Gottesdiener and the Larsons and myself and Mary Simpkins from I can't remember the name of their company then. It's changed a couple times, but it was just very funny because there would be like 5 or 6 of us in each presentation, and it was all the same people, and we were just sitting in each other's, and we were so excited because even though we were all competitors, we were all saying the same things, and we were like, yay, we've got consistency in this industry. And so it was really exciting, but it was a total failure from a marketing expenditure perspective. Any clients there.
That's a good one. I know a couple people talk about the first BBC, which was in Washington, D.C. And I remember someone that was in my chapter went to it. And for several years after, they would all hook up at BBC and keep in touch. And that's interesting. And, it's funny how you say the first conference, everybody was, part of a community. It's still that way.
Yeah.
All of us have our own niche. I mean, and we all root for each other. And that's what's so wonderful. So I guess we're starting with the past. And I remember Kathleen Barrett, when she came to our chapter, she said that when they started it, that the first thing they did was hire a PM so that they could get something done.
Exactly.
So does anybody else have a funny story from the past? I know we have some out there.
Well, if we're talking, Kathleen, I mean, I went to BBC a long ago. It was in, I think, 2011. And I still remember a presentation she did where you could not even fit in that room. And it was absolutely amazing. It gives me goosebumps to even think about it. It was standing room only, and everyone is standing. There was a standing ovation that carried on for 5. I'm not even joking. I'm not exaggerating. For 5 minutes, it just carried on forever and ever. And that was when sort of things were shifting and changing in IIBA. And it was an amazing conference. I think my eyes were like this the whole conference. I mean, 1,500 people, so many people to meet, and but that's presentation. I specifically remember it, and many people do. And the reason I bring it up is when you're looking into the future, it's important to look at where we've come from, and people like that really epitomize where we've come from and why we are where we are now, because we wouldn't be here without pioneers like that, Barbara, Kevin, Julian, Sammy. There's a whole lot of people like that really we're here because of them. So that was a really poignant memory for myself from that conference.
Yeah, that was great. I think I remember that one. I actually was at every BBC, I think, until maybe the year before last. But the first one that Judy was talking about, I remember that, it was a business rules and the business process groups conference that had been going on, and we joined them. And they had no idea how many of us were going to show up, and there were not enough chairs. And we were sitting on the floor in a lot of the conference sessions because we just descended on them. And, the elevators going up and down in the conference center, there were lines to get on the elevator. And all the business process people and the rules people were kind of annoyed. We were all so excited. We're like, look at all these people, they all kind of know what we do. And we had a ball sitting on the floor.
Yeah, you kind of wonder if they're still annoyed with us.
I think they've joined us now. I think they've realized, we know what we're talking about.
I remember the first BBC I went to, and I had signed up for this workshop, and I don't know, I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. And it was a workshop by that John Friedman, the godfather of business rules and all that. And I was sitting there with somebody I had ran into earlier in the day. We must have been going to the same places. And she was from North Carolina. And we were sitting there, and everybody, when he came in, they were just swarming, getting pictures with him, saying it's such an honor. And she goes, "Who is he?" I go, "I don't know. He must be somebody big, you know." And then I found out who he was, you know.
Oh, you're talking about Zachman, right? John
Zachman, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I misspoke.
That's okay. He's a guru, and
Oh yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize what type, you know.
yeah.
I did find out that I'm not that enamored with business rules, you know, at least not in a presentation. So one of our buddies, Philip, jokes about how BA stands for by accident. And that's how most of us became a BA. So, Brian, how did you become a business analyst?
By accident.
Exactly.
That's the answer.
Easy answer. So yeah, I mean, I came into it through the business domain. I started doing what one would think is business analysis, and then someone eventually said to me, "Aren't you doing business analysis?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What is that?" And then I did a bit of research, and I was like, "Oh wait, this is what I'm doing." So it was definitely by accident. So I came through the business domain. And yeah, I just ended up doing the stuff, and then realizing actually there's other people who do it, and it's formal. It's there's something that I can pursue, and yeah, I haven't looked back since. So definitely by accident. And it's a fascinating. If you look at stuff like what Adrian and Tina are trying to do at the moment with BA School, I mean that to me fascinates me at the moment, because the day we know we've done it, the good job is when a kid says, "When I grow up, I want to be a BA." Then you know we made it.
You're
We
here.
made it as a profession.
Yeah.
Because I want to be a doctor, astronaut, all of these things. And at school, I didn't know what a BA was. I didn't, even outside of school, you don't know what it is. And it's becoming more and more. It's a long way to go till the day that someone says, "I want to be a BA when I grow up." But I think the day is coming. It's going to happen. So if we can get more of that, then hopefully it's not going to be by accident anymore. It's going to be on purpose. Yeah.
Exactly. Paula, how did you get into it?
Well, what Philippe says is right. It was by accident. When I started doing business analysis, it wasn't even known as a discipline, right? So there was no name for it. It was essentially, I was working for a manufacturing company after I graduated from college, and they put me in this role called an integration specialist. And essentially, it was the person who did everything nobody else wanted to do.
A BA.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, I got everything, right? I didn't know that I was writing requirements to develop this solution, right? And I was actually a software developer too. So I didn't know that was what I was doing. I was just doing what I thought made sense at the time. And then I moved from that role. I had actually gotten laid off, and I moved from that role, and I was a help desk specialist for like 3 years. I did contract work for like 3 years. And I worked for the state of North Carolina, and they actually brought in Coop's old company, B2T.
That was my company. Yeah.
It was your company.
Yeah.
They brought in B2T, and that's when I first got recognized. I first noticed that there was an actual discipline, and they selected some of us to go through that. And that's literally how I started my BA career. I went through that course. And I have to say this, though. That course was probably one of the most revolutionizing courses for me, because you had to go through, it wasn't you just took a test. You literally had to go through like weeks of training, 3 tests. And if you were lucky to pass the 3 tests, then you had to do a project. Yeah. And you had to do that in the project. And that's how you got that certification. So it was applied, and it was testing, and it was theory, and it was all natural to me. I saw my colleagues struggling. I wasn't. It was nothing for me to make a data map. It was nothing for me to do a use case. I was like, I'm actually good at this. And it doesn't take a whole lot of effort. Yeah, I think this is what I want to do. And so I just stayed in that. I've just stayed in project management since. That's literally, I fell into it. I wasn't looking for it. I just fell into it.
That's a great memory for me, Paula, because you described the program really well that we have built, because we did have tests that were knowledge-based. And then we made the candidates write a requirements package. And, you know, in those days, there were no requirements management tools or really anything. So it was, you know, Microsoft Word and drawing some pictures in Visio. And it was we thought it was a great idea until a lot of people started sending in these 30-page requirements documents, and we had to read them all and grade them, right?
I still have mine. It's like that binder and all. I still have it. And that's one of my proudest moments that I did that.
And so when we met Kathleen and, you know, we were talking about starting IIBA and having a certification, we're like, okay, here's one thing you don't want to do is, you know, she had this idea at the time. I remember this too, and it's still a great idea if we could do it. She wanted all the people trying to get their CBAP to have to facilitate a session, like a workshop at their chapter meeting, which is a great idea. It's kind of like also writing a requirements package. And she said, someday we'll have enough volunteers and enough members and enough certified people that we could orchestrate that. And we still might be able to someday. I don't know if people think that's a good idea, but I always thought that was kind of cool, that we could actually show how we do our work.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me is the work itself. I mean, you can only teach so much. The rest is about how you apply it and the real life example. So I like the way that goes, because I can teach you how to do an ERD any day. It's easy. This is how you do it. But I go put you in a real life project and say, go do the ERD here, and then it's like, oh wait, or that you have to build the ERD from scratch, and which is the best way to do it. And that's, I call it the art and craft of business analysis. The art is those hard skills. You got it. The craft, and you need that. You need to. I think even these days, I think a lot of people forget about those hard skills that are so important. If you walk into a room and can't do artifacts like that, you shouldn't be in that room. But then it's the art of it. How do you take it to the next level? How do you know when to apply the technique? How do you know when to draw a picture versus complete a formal model? How do you know when an email is good enough? How do you know when you need stakeholder, when you need sign off and when you don't need sign off? Those kind of things are things you learn. So the more practical we get with things, the better. And be able to facilitate and communicate what you're trying to say is kind of vital to the role. So yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was actually in claims for several years and in policy owner service before we had a very painful reorganization. And I actually got demoted and taking a 20% pay cut, doing the same job, but with less authority. Not cool. And actually, that's how I became a BA. It took me a few months after we reorganized to get into the BA area, but I was a customer of their, of projects. And so I think they were tired of me and all my requests. So I joined the club. But, I realized later when I was managing some high dollar claims, I was being a project manager and a BA at the same time. They just, as you said, the title wasn't known. So I think that brings us to the present. What does everybody think? There are days I wish I was about 20 years younger, but then I think, oh, no. Ryan, what do you think about the present? Yeah.
So I think we're as a profession in a really interesting place at the moment, because we're sort of in that middle ground. I mean, the future is closer than we think, and we've got all these new technologies that are coming out, and it's interesting to see how people are applying them. I mean, I thought about applying to a conference with a presentation title called "This Presentation is Not About AI." I feel like
that's right.
Everyone wants to talk about AI. Hey, ChatGPT did this and AI did this, and I think it's an interesting time as a profession, because how we handle those new technologies is going to be really important to me. Because if you ask me like what is going to change in our profession and what is changing, I kind of think that not much is going to change. The fundamentals are actually going to stay the same. It's how we utilize these new technologies and how we don't go down the rabbit hole of all these new technologies and there's a shiny object over there. Let's all run there and do this and let's see if we can do a user story on ChatGPT, but realizing how to harness these tools to do it. And I think we're in a pivotal position right now. We've got to figure that out and not run too far and do, because the profession can go the wrong way, and we can end up being seen as technology people who just implement the technology, as opposed to the thinking profession, to quote my favorite quote from Heather, thinking about it and thinking about things. That is the crux of the role. So what if there's AI? So what if there's anything else? Sometimes a spreadsheet works, sometimes drawing works. So I wouldn't say we're in solid ground at the moment. I'd say we're in kind of shaky ground, and we want to figure out how we stabilize as a profession with all the stuff that's coming over: product ownership, product management, people changing roles, people wanting a different title other than business analysis. I think that's what's top of mind for me at the moment about the present. Keen to hear what others think about that.
No, I'd have to agree with you on that. So I'm the type of person that when I'm having conversations, Ryan, you and I are on the same page. I'm like, hey, can we just go back to the basics for a minute? Can we keep this simple? Because I think what happens is there's so much noise, right? There's so much stuff going on, especially for business analysts that I coach who are new in the BA world. It's too much. It's overwhelming. I don't know what, because there's so much out there. Should I be doing Agile? Should I be doing Salesforce? Should I be doing RPA? Should I be an IT business analyst? Should I do this? Should I do that? What technology should I learn? What certification should I have? I'm like, hey, stop a minute. Just stop. Just calm down a second. How about we just get you to be a functioning BA? How about that? Why don't we just start there? Do you even know how to run a workshop if you had to? Do you even know how to schedule a meeting? You will be amazed how so many people don't know how to do the fundamental things you have to do to actually drive business analysis work. And I'll tell them, don't get caught up so much in the methodologies and all the tools and techniques. Let's go back to basics, because there's so much. Now, all of this stuff out here is relevant. AI is relevant. Agile is relevant. All of it's relevant. But it's not really relevant if you don't know how to apply it, or where to put it, or where to plug it, right? And that's where I find a lot of people in the present, especially if they're new to business analysis, will sometimes get overwhelmed and frustrated. If you're a BA and whatnot, you're probably just moving through, navigating through the motions, right? Or maybe not, but most probably are. But it's really, I just try and get you back to the basics. And I've always said this. This is not a valid statistic. This is a BA martial artist statistic made up, okay? So nobody take this for face, like this isn't out there. But I have found to be successful in business analysis, you better have the soft skills, or what I call the critical skills. I don't care how much methodology you know, how much technique you know. If you can't talk to people, if you can't communicate, if you can't understand who your audience is and how they like to work with you, if you can't collaborate, if you can't know how to be on a team, if you can't be an influencer, a negotiator, your job as a BA is going to be a little bit harder. So that all, the emotional intelligence, all of that works together, and you've got to be able to do that. And so that's where I like people to start, just start in the present, simple, right? And then all the other stuff will come as well. But that's just me. I just think all this stuff out here is great. But yeah, Ryan, I mean, AI is everywhere. It's like, I can't even in my email, I can't go anywhere without seeing AI at this point, right? So it's just a lot. It's a lot.
I agree, Paula, especially your comments about the soft skills. I do think one thing that's in the present moment that is a very good result is, if you think about, since Agile came into being, and initially they were like, we don't need BAs, we don't need requirements, we don't need analysis. You just put a user in the room with the developer and you'll build wonderful things. And where we are today is the Agile community realizes our value. And you rarely hear about an Agile team that doesn't have, if they call it a product owner or a product management or a value management team, they often call it a BA now, right? So even though it's taken us a few years, we have stood our ground and said, yeah, you still do need analysis. Yeah, you do need requirements. Yeah, somebody needs to think ahead about what you're doing before you code it. And we've won that battle. So I think anything that comes on the forefront will be the same way. We have to stand our ground and say, you still have to think about what you're doing and why you're doing it before you do it. And to Ryan's point, is AI the right solution, or is it just the latest, silver bullet? I remember a few years ago, there was a lot of, I read a lot of statistics and predictions like by Gartner and these groups that every automated process was going to go audio. Because remember Alexis, the speaker that Amazon had, everybody was talking to it, and it was like, everything's going to be audio. What happened to that? I mean, it didn't.
Yep.
So now it's all going to be AI. I don't know. Is that going to happen? Not everything is going to fit there. So
I think it's funny. I call my Google Assistant, which is sitting right next to me. It's the most expensive timer I have, because that's all I use it for.
Yeah, exactly.
and I think, so I just like there's some comments coming through. I like a comment from Robert. Is it from Robert? Yeah. You're saying that transcending the mechanics and doing more than going through the motions, and I think that's quite an interesting comment, because often it's how you do your job can become quite you go in, you have a meeting, you get the requirements, you come back, you write it into a user story, you send it to, it becomes mechanical, and it's not about that. It's about the art of it, like what's the best technique, what's the best way of doing it. And so I really like that comment, and I think that's where the skill lies. And from the soft skills perspective, I love Paula's comment around some of the soft skills, because if you cannot facilitate, this is not the role for you. Like facilitation, it does not matter what we have to facilitate. We have to. It's never going to change. Past, present, future. Facilitation is like the number one thing. The rest of the things, like I often get asked, or in an interview, I love to ask a question like, can you do a state diagram? And the reason I ask that is because not many people can do it these days. Like it's hard. And the answer I'm expecting is not necessarily yes, I can do it, because a lot of people will lie and say they can do it. Then I'll quickly ask them, explain to me what a state diagram is. And what I'm expecting is, no, I can't do it right now. Give me 5 minutes. I'll pull up my the Black Book of Business Analysis. Take 5 minutes. I'll learn the technique. The techniques are easy. It's figuring out when to use it, how to use it, correct way of doing it, and those are the kind of people that you want. So it's those soft skills that I feel are almost more important. Techniques are going to change. Tools are going to change. Yeah.
Exactly. And as you all know, I'm huge on the soft skills. And I remember in 2020, I had the wonderful timing of opening the business as COVID became a buzzword in our lives. And so for a couple of years, I just was a travel agent. I planned to go to a conference and then cancel, So, but I ran across a meme that I still put in some of my presentations, where it says that in 2020, 69% of the hiring managers were looking for the soft skills versus the hard skills. And that was the first time that really how I had noticed that the way I thought was really validated more than ever. So I was really excited, about that. And if you can't talk to the people, it just can't happen, because there's so many shiny objects that come along. And probably one of the funniest stories, and I'll share it, it's real brief, but the last project I worked on in corporate America, it was a new life insurance product, and I was no longer in that space and hadn't been in several years, but I was tapped because of, my knowledge. And so one day a couple managers came to me and they said you put together a product, there's several teams working on it, like I explained to somebody one day, the little document that you get, or big document you get, it just doesn't appear. There's all sorts of stuff that is behind the scenes. And they came to me and they said, this product, it's supposed to be such a bestseller. And I said, yeah, that's what they're saying. They said, well, these BAs are telling us that it can only print 25 policies a day, and we can't have that. And I go, well, let me go talk to the printer people. So I call them up and I go over there, and they were in a different building. And as Mutual evolved, you really didn't have to leave your own little domain. And so a lot of people didn't like to walk across the street. So I go over and I talk to them and I'm telling them, what's going on and everything. And they kind of look at me and then they look at the printer. And it turned out that there was a switch that was set wrong on the printer. Problem solved. And here the department, they were saying, oh, well, we need this piece of new technology, shiny object syndrome. And blah, blah, blah. And everybody's up in air. And here it was, I don't think anybody wanted to walk across the street, truthfully, to talk to them. It's just amazing sometimes when you think of those things,
Yeah, and maybe it makes me think of something else that you mentioned, simplicity. And simplicity is something I love to talk about. And it's one of the things I think is key to the role is, the word analysis means in Latin, I believe, I could be wrong. Don't Google anyone. It means to break down. And
Right.
really, that's what it is. It's about breaking down something and simplifying it, presenting it in a way that is simple. It's easy. Taking something that's really complex and making it simple. You don't need to ask AI how to fix a printer. You can walk across the street and check if this, sometimes the obvious answer is there. So, and I do think that there's a tendency to overcomplicate stuff, overcomplicate our own lives, even the product that we're designing or involved in. Sometimes you want to go and make that more complicated than it needs to be. So I do believe that's going to be a soft skill that is going to become more and more important as things get more and more complex. Definitely. And another, I'm seeing I'm reading these comments, and there's a lady from Finland who sort of said we need to find ways to let things like AI help us. And that's where I do agree with all of this. It's about how can we simplify our work and get to the crux of our work using tools, because a document isn't our work. Our work happens, it's how we evidence the work we do. Actually, it's how we communicate the work we do. But long before you've written it down, it's in your head. You're thinking about it. You've drawn it. You're contemplating how these things work. Then it's like, okay, now how do I put this on paper so that I can communicate what I'm trying to say, or what I think in my head across to another person that can take and do something about it. So that's where I do see all of these new tools and technologies becoming useful. Cut out the stuff that actually isn't value adding, and focus on the thing that is value adding, which is the soft skills, the facilitation, the getting to the crux of that. That's never going to be replaced by anything else, in my opinion. It's never going to be replaced. So it helps you focus on the right thing, and I see that's where our jobs are going to change potentially.
I agree, and I saw Judith's note also, and I was thinking about a lot of the requirements management tools are already incorporating AI into the tool to help. And I think it's great. The hardest thing sometimes, and Paula, you mentioned it with especially newer BAs, is a blank piece of paper. Like, how do I get started? And so, AI can kick out a whole bunch of possible scenarios or, possible column requirements or stories or whatever they are. The trick for us then is we have to analyze them and say, do these make sense? Could they be useful? And I think, BAs don't have many productivity tools. If you think about other professions, people have been given more and more tools to allow them to be more productive and use their time better. We don't have any. I mean, nothing against Microsoft, but Microsoft Office is not a business analysis tool set that's very helpful. So I'm excited about some of the stuff that's going on in the requirements management space with AI, and also with the requirement management tool vendors need to learn more about what we do, because I don't think they've always understood it real well. They're very good at engineering applications and medical device applications, maybe stuff that you've seen, Ryan, but with a lot of compliance. But a lot of BAs don't work in those industries. And so the tools have to be a little bit more able, flexible, nimble, whatever word you want to use. But I do think that we are, part of the reason I always said people didn't use requirements management tools is because they're so expensive. And BAs were not highly paid. We were looked upon as scribes. So why would you give them an expensive, high-powered tool? But now our salaries have gone up. Our value has gone up. People recognize that we are needed and valuable. And I think they might be willing to give us better tools to do our work. And that's just going to snowball. It's just going to be continually better. So that's an area I'm kind of moving to the future, Judy, but that's an area that's really exciting to me, is getting us some tools to work with.
Can I jump in here right quick, because I'm reading the comments too, so I just want to clarify something. We're on this call are not saying we're against AI or anything like that. We're not saying against tools. The tool is only going to be as good as how you use it. So if you don't even know how to do business analysis work, how do you know what to put in the tool to get what you need out of it, right? So when you look at some of the challenges, and this is not for everybody, you have some BAs that are like total rock stars, right? Doing their thing, have been doing it for years, know how to navigate, know how to flow. But you also have, as this is becoming a more recognized role, and I really don't even like to use the word role or title, because it's really about the value you provide, but it's becoming more recognized, right? You have new people coming in who are just trying to learn, and we're throwing a lot at them, and they're trying to learn. And we've got to have a way to onboard them in, to move them in, to understand, well, this is how you actually do business analysis work, right? And then here are all the tools and stuff you can use to help do the work. Some people are even having a hard time figuring out how to do the work. So you can give them AI all day long. How are they going to know what to ask them? They don't know what to put in AI because they don't even understand what they're supposed to be doing, right? Those are the people I'm concerned about, right? Who are like just out here just trying to figure out stuff. Right? So I'm not against any tool. I'm a tech person. I used to be a developer. I'm a tech person. I love tech. I have so much tech in my house, it's ridiculous, right? But it's only as good as if you know how to use it. I mean, so I think we have multiple tiers of VAs, and we have to make sure that we, cater to all and get them to all. But and AI isn't new. AI is it's just really hot right now. I think ChatGPT might have put AI on the map. I was working with AI back when I was in college, right? It's not new, but it's a hot topic right now. But again, it depends on what you put in it. Like how many times I've used AI and I've asked a question and I got back a result and I was like, well, that's not really what I was looking for, right? It doesn't help you figure out how to ask the question.
Right.
That's really what I want, because you didn't give
my favorite saying is, a fool with the tool is still a fool.
But as I'm sitting here, hearing our discussion, and all three of you are exactly in tune with things I'm thinking. But how many times did you went to a new project elicitation session, and the business shows up with, oh, well, we have this problem and it's blah, blah, blah. And we have the solution. Here it is. And it's a shiny new piece of technology. And so the BA has to be skilled at talking them down off their own ledge before they jump off and get hurt. Because a lot of times, as I said about the printer story, it's not always the tool that solves your problem. And if you don't, get the basics, then you're not gonna be skilled. And quite honestly, we never used a requirements tool where I worked. We didn't use a lot of tools, and we just used a Word document. That's it. And so it's amazing. And I truly think that methodologies, they all have their place. There's certain projects should probably not be agile. And I like those huge waterfall documents more than anybody. I do have to give a shout out to somebody who's on the show, because she's not a BA. Judith from Finland is one of my close friends I met on LinkedIn during COVID. And of course, that, as you can tell by the name, that is, Judith, which is me. So I call her my namesake because she is younger. But we haven't met in person, but she is probably about a foot taller. So whenever we do, I'll have to take a picture. But I really think she's a BA and she just doesn't know it. And she did her master's thesis on leadership. And so, see, you don't even have to be a BA to come to the BA Jam. So kudos.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Exactly. There's some people are BAs and they don't know it. My standard line is that if somebody says something, I say, well, I'll bet you're a BA and you don't even know it. And they look at me and I go, do you ever go to the grocery store? Do you write a list before you go? and you probably either do it based on kind or by the aisles, and then you get all mad when they change the aisles. Now, Barbara, something about the present that I heard about you. I understand that you are a certified digital nomad.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. My husband and I have sold our house in the United States.
Mhm.
We sold our car,
Mhm.
and we have been traveling around Europe for about a year and a half now. Have been so fortunate to visit Holland, England, Scotland, France, Germany, Italy. We're in Spain now, and Spain actually just started offering a digital nomad visa.
Mm.
So I applied for that, and the requirements are simply that you work for a company that is outside of Spain, so you're not taking a job away from someone in Spain.
Mhm.
And we now have permission to stay here for 3 years.
Wow.
So we're making this kind of our home base, and then we're going to travel from here and still visit other places. But I've been able to go to IIBA chapter meetings in different countries. That's been really fun.
Awesome.
Actually, Spain just started a chapter, so I've been in contact with the new chapter leader, and I'm hoping to get to one of their meetings soon. Yeah, it's been a dream of mine. I always kind of thought that I would have liked to have lived in Europe, and just never took the time or the chance. And
Mhm.
fortunately, my husband was game, and we're having a great time.
Did he get to play golf at St. Andrews?
He did.
Okay.
He did. Yeah.
Somehow I knew he did. Yes.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did. He also played in a tournament here in Spain, and he's hoping to play in another one this fall, a senior tournament.
Cool.
So for those who don't know, my husband was a professional golfer, and so that's pretty much his passion, which is kind of funny. We joke a lot because he's a BA, who doesn't necessarily admit it, but they do a lot of analysis in professional golf.
Yeah.
It's a very complex sport.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yes, he's been playing every chance he gets all over the world, meeting people from all different countries. And I'm just so grateful. It's just been so much fun.
Wonderful. I know how much work you put into building your house in South Carolina.
We did.
That was a project of itself.
It was. It
You had
was.
a plan for that.
And it was funny, yeah, because I that's when, Judy, I don't know if I shared with you, but some people, I really started using Kanban boards with my contractors.
Yes.
Yeah, and they loved it. Actually, at first they thought I was crazy, but I put a flip chart up in the kitchen, and I put Post-it notes. I gave them each a different color: the plumber, the electrician, the handyman.
Yep.
And every morning when they would come in, we'd go look at the board, and I'm like, "What are you doing today?" Because I had trouble with them. All of a sudden, they'd say, "Oh, we need the sink today." Well, why didn't you tell me 2 days ago that I needed to go pick out a sink, right? So then it was kind of a, and then they started like teasing each other, like, well, I'm waiting for Bill, he didn't do his task yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that worked well. But the story, you had a COVID experience too. We put our house on the market right when COVID started.
Uh-huh.
Of course, having no idea what COVID meant. And it was nice. We sold it right away because we had done so much work. But then we were like, okay, now we're homeless. Now what do we do?
Exactly.
And Europe had shut down, so we couldn't come here. So we nomaded around the United States during COVID,
Right.
and had some good experiences doing that too. So it's been fun.
What interests me with the whole traveling thing is and there's a lesson in a BA for that, because when you go to somewhere like Spain, I've been there I think twice this year actually. I was in Valencia recently, and things are just different, and it teaches you to appreciate when you do analysis how to take those nuances into account. So like in Spain, nothing happens between 12 and a half between 12 and 3, and it drives me mad because you're like, I want to go to lunch, I want to go to the store, but things literally close down. And it just makes you realize that when you approach anything, you design a solution. Some solutions will work swimmingly in one country, and some will work terribly in another country. I mean, you go to China and they use everything's on WeChat. Everything, like you walk into a restaurant that you can't get a booking on their website. You have to do it on WeChat. You pay on WeChat. And it's completely different, and it doesn't make sense to you, but it makes sense to them, and that's how they operate. So it's about being able to, when you design solutions, you're not designing for you. And I think people get confused about that. They go and say, okay, well, I'll build the best solution ever. It's going to do this, this, and this. This is what I want it to do. This is how it's going to look good. I would like it if it does this, but you're maybe not the target market. You're not who it's being built for. It's about getting there and not just looking at the culture, the way that people are. It's about understanding the culture, the way people are, and going, okay, well, yes, this will work for me, but actually, it's not going to make sense in this country. So I feel like that international perspective. And that perspective when you travel and go to different places can really influence the way you think about things, and you become a lot more tolerant as well.
Oh, right.
I 100% agree. And as Barbara was telling that story, and so you took it to the standpoint of Ryan, just navigating in other countries and understanding the environment, the culture, and how they work, right? I want to take it from an aspect of risk, which is one of the things that I think we as business analysts need to get more understanding of for the future. And I've been talking about this for a few years, but it's especially depending on the industry you work in. When you're building solutions, you have to think of risk, not just from the triple constraint that we were taught back in the day, right? The scope, the time, the budget. Yeah, that's great. You got to think about that too. But you really have to think about, okay, is what we're building as a solution, how's that going to impact the organization and impact the customers? Are we going to now have reputational risk? Are we going to now have operational risk? Are we going to now have financial risk? And a lot of times you don't think about that because your head's down working and you're getting these needs from the business, but then you're not really thinking holistically about, okay, so how's it going to impact the organization holistically and the customers we serve? I worked in the financial industry for many years. And so we're a heavily regulated industry, right? And there are many times we built things not realizing, well, dang, it breaks that part of the process down the line, or it breaks this part of the process upstream. And now we've added additional risks. So now we got to put in a whole bunch of controls. You literally have to think holistic. You cannot think siloed, especially in like healthcare, insurance, financial. You just can't. And that's even more so when you think about when you're building solutions that go across countries.
Right.
Because you might know the rules here in the US, but do you know the rules in Europe? You know the rules in Africa or other places, right? Our role, the amount of value we add as a BA is phenomenal. The amount of skill set you get doing this work, the sky's the limit. You can go anywhere. There's this testing everything. I mean, you really have to think holistic. And so when both of y'all were talking, that came to mind. I think that's one of the things we got to think about for the future. It's great to build these solutions. It's great to use all these tools, but what's the end result? What's the consequences of the work that we're doing, right?
And you're right, Paula, and it ties right back to your soft skills in that you have to help your stakeholders see that bigger vision and see those risks and the other implication, because we're the only people, I think, that tend to look at things from a global perspective, whether it's just in an enterprise or whether it's in countries. And we're the ones who see, oh, well, that might work over here, but it's not going to work here. And sometimes our stakeholders have that heads down. They're just working on their particular, whatever their project is or their need or their problem. And that's where you really have to be a very good communicator and listen to them and make sure you can help them understand that this is a bigger picture than just what they're looking for. Right. And that's hard sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to float a concept out there. It's something I've been thinking about, and since we're doing past, present, future, one of the future things is you often get asked, is BA a generalist position, is a specialist position? And to me, I've got this concept, that doesn't make any sense, but it makes sense to me, is that we're a specialist generalist. So we specialize in being general because risk is the domain of its own. Compliance is a domain of its own. Security is a domain. It's UX, UI, development, all of these things. And we kind of need to know enough about all the pieces to be able to pull the right people in. So I need to know this is my extent of my knowledge on risk. And if I need a little bit more, I need to I need to know when to call in the right person. So yeah, I'd love to have everyone's thoughts around the concept of a specialist generalist.
It sounds funny, but it makes sense, Ryan. I agree with you. I think, and that's, as Paula's been saying, that's the hard thing for new BAs to learn is how much detail do I need to get to in that particular area before I have too much, how much do I need to understand about how the coder is going to code this, or How much do I need to understand about how the business is going to use this? And that's I have a hard time answering that question. You got to know enough. I mean, I usually say you've got to know enough that you feel comfortable that what you're recommending is going to work. But that's maybe different for everybody.
Yeah, you can't ignore cybersecurity. And I saw Bindu's online, and she's big on that. You can't ignore cybersecurity. You do need to be an expert? No, I don't believe. But it also depends maybe on your domain you're working in. But I feel like it's really important to know, because I mean, risk is complicated, and understanding how to articulate it and some of the level of detail can be very complex. But you do need to understand what risk is. You definitely do.
I think there's a place for specialist BAs. I mean, I think there are people that are specializing in cybersecurity or specializing in data analysis or and I think there's enough work for all of us. I mean, we need a lot of people who are specialists, and we need a lot of people who are generalists. I mean, everything that I come upon in life, I'm always saying, there was no BA involved in this. I mean, processes are badly designed, tools are bad. The gas pump is badly designed because there was no BA. So I think there's work for all of us. But I do like your generalizing specialist.
Yeah, specialist generous. It's going to stick. It's going to be a thing. It's going to be a thing. I'll tell you.
We should start a hashtag. It's kind of like should have had a BA.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with everything you're saying. And I was always what I would consider myself a specialist, but I did cross a lot of different projects. And I wasn't afraid to, something's broken on this system. And I'd be like, I've never touched that system. Well, you have access. Oh, okay. Well, I'll go find out. I wasn't afraid to go break something, but I was put on one project. It was a large strategic project, and I was put on there for my knowledge of the system, because I knew they couldn't, hook up everything to a UI. It just wasn't possible. It was a COBOL system that we had just made into true spaghetti. That was the one time I saw spaghetti code. But we're kind of toward the phase where we do need to wrap up. And I'm going to go first with this one. We need to acknowledge IIBA's 20-year anniversary. My life wouldn't have been the same had I not joined IIBA. And it was kind of quite accidental how I joined IIBA in the first place. And I feel it made me a better BA. But the biggest thing is the community that I have been exposed to, and all the people I can just dial up globally around the world. And when we get together, it's like you're at a family reunion, whether you're at BBC, or recently I was in Kansas City and I was in Albuquerque. It was the inaugural PMBA conference in Albuquerque. And it was, everybody was just all, it was like a family reunion, and it always is. And I really have seen a lot of changes at IIBA, and I've had a lot of different volunteer positions there, like Barbara has too. And so I really have to put kudos out to IIBA. Probably one of the most shining moments of my career, though, was last year when I was taken by surprise on the BA Day celebration when I received IIBA's Lifetime Achievement Award. That will always set in my heart. And in fact, you can't see it, but it's right on the shelf behind me. And I have a little light that lights it up and it spins around. So happy 20th IIBA, and many more. So I don't know give each of you some time to talk about IIBA.
I couldn't agree with you more, Judy. The network, the people have just been phenomenal. And I hadn't thought about it the way you said it, but my life would be completely different. I don't know what my life would be, but I'm glad that this is the path that we all went to. And I'm just so thrilled at how many people have joined our community and how wonderful they are. Every time I listen into a discussion or a webinar or a conference session, I'm just like, wow, look at all these great people we have. And being close to retirement, it gives me a good feeling that I can walk away and there's just lots and lots of people carrying the torch and continuing to spread the word. And I think only good things will continue. So I'm so happy to have been part of this community, and I've enjoyed it so much. Happy 20th IIBA.
Barbara, I'm not sure that either of us will sit down long enough to enjoy a drink on a beach somewhere, but the two that are on the show with us, at least we know we're going to get there first.
Don't worry.
Paula,
I
what
mean,
do you think about IIBA?
Oh no, Ryan was about to jump in. Go ahead. I don't know. Yeah.
I was going to say mine is exactly the same story as Judy. I mean, IIBA has not been one of, it has been the defining thing in my career. And it's really about that you're not alone. That's the critical thing for me. It's saying you might be an isolated BA working in a company. You might be part of a bigger company and doing BA work in a specific way. But there's more out there, and there's a whole lot of people doing this. A whole lot of people that share the same, they do the same thing as you. They understand what you're doing. So that really resonates to me. And then on the community side, it really came to light. I was in London 3 weeks ago, and I was there on holiday, and it was IRM UK at the same time, and there was an after party. So I thought, let me go stop in. I got some tickets. Just I emailed them and said, do you mind if I just join for the after party? And I walked in, and it was actually a bit overwhelming because I knew like 40 people in the room, and I was chatting. And it was just so overwhelming, and that's just because of the community that IIBA has built. I would not know those people otherwise, and I wouldn't be able to have those conversations. So happy birthday IIBA.
Yeah, I have to echo all of this. Happy 20th. It's great. And, a lot of organizations don't last the 20. Heck, some organizations don't last the 10. So you to still be going at 20 is amazing. But I have to agree, the community has been the great thing. We've lost some great people too. I remember, Bob Prentice was the one who actually got me speaking. Him and Roxanne Miller, and then Julian Sammy. Him as well. We've lost some great who actually laid a really strong foundation and helped to build some of this community. So I at least want to honor them and respect those that we've lost who've helped to build a community as well. But I would have to
Ken Fulmer.
Yeah, that's what
Ken Fulmer.
Ken Fulmer.
Please mention, because I'm quite sure I might be missing somebody there. But there's been so many great people who have blood, sweat, and tears, right? Blood, sweat, and tears, and who've helped. But look at the greatness that's coming up behind us, though. I remember we didn't have a ton of speakers to pick from at conferences, and now it's so overwhelming. You don't see always the same people anymore. You see a lot of different people, a lot of people doing some great things. So I love the community. I don't know if I would have had a connection to you, Ryan, in South Africa. I don't know if I would have spoken in South Africa if it wasn't the IIBA touch, right? So again, happy 20th, and here's the 20 more. Let's keep it going.
Cheers.
Ryan, I think that, one of my future goals is to come to South Africa to speak. Hint, hint.
Done. Organized.
Let me know when you're going, Judy. I might go with you. I got to go back.
It's great. I would go back too, Ryan. We'll all come.
You're all invited.
And I would also be remiss, as I'm thinking about this, on Friday the 13th this week, one of the IIBA people who is behind the scenes but also front and center is Terry Lynn Rodriguez is retiring.
Sure.
And I don't know how well any of you knew her, but probably one of the funniest people I know. And she was a real help through all the stuff. So that is also key, front and center. And Friday the 13th also, the BA Jam is going to have an episode where we tell horror stories in honor of Friday the 13th. So join us. What you can do, the way it's timed, we have a BA cafe every Friday. Now in Europe, it's 12:30 p.m., but for me, it's 5:30 a.m. And so at about 45 minutes after it ends, the BA Jam will start. I don't know if it's out on our schedule yet, but we've been planning it. And I would be remiss if I didn't recognize the person in our group who came up with the idea of the BA Jam, and that is Kathy Berkridge from Australia. Every conference we go to, we have a WhatsApp group, and then it seems to continue. And we named our group the Cool Kids for BBC, and that's where the jam was born from. And so as all of us got together, and it is very interesting. But I think after planning the jam with 20 BAs or so, I think I have to agree with Kathleen Barrett. We need a PM next time. No, it has been great, and I really have to salute the group. It's been a lot of fun, you know. We always haven't agreed, but you work it out, and that's why we're such great BAs and such great friends. So I think it is about time for us to sign off. Thank you all so much for joining me. Somebody mentioned Heather's name earlier, and you know, I was going to have Heather on this show, but Heather chose to not answer my text message when I asked her to be on my show. And instead, she runs into Jamie Champagne at an airport. And you notice on the schedule, she's on Jamie's show. And I am just teasing both of them because I just thought that was kind of amusing. So, thank you all very much. And until next time. And thanks to everyone who has joined us today. I don't know how many of you there are out there. Hopefully it's more than just a table for four. But have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, Judy.
Bye.
Nice to see you, Paula, Ryan.
Yeah, same here.
Cheers.